for the supervisors for the purpose to have a hearing for a wireless ordinance hearing. Wireless ordinance is now come to order Wednesday, April 30th, 2014 at 6 p.m. We will stand, pledge allegiance, and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. At this point, I declare this hearing open, and I will turn the proceedings of the hearing over to Solicitor Ryder to conduct.
Thank you, I think. Let me just make some preliminary remarks. The idea of the wireless proposed ordinance was something that's being kicked around for some years in various municipalities throughout Pennsylvania, predominantly, if you will, initiated by a law firm out of Pittsburgh, I believe, who's done a considerable amount of work and research in this area. And I know in other municipalities where I'm solicitor, they've been actively involved in pointing out to municipalities various avenues to protect the municipality from the, if you will, onslaught of wireless services, while at the same time providing guidelines to protect the municipalities, and at the same time generating methods of additional revenue. It's with those primary goals in mind that a proposed ordinance was put together, advertised for tonight, and one of the requirements is that we have to have a public hearing. That public hearing was advertised for 6 o'clock this evening. The record should reflect that the supervisors are here, all three, so we do have a quorum. Township personnel are here, and there's an audience of 4 people. Having said that, we will open up the floor to comments by anyone in the audience and/or questions. The only thing we would like you to do would be to identify yourself by name and your address, so that this young lady, our court reporter, who's recording everything, can take it down. We would ask that persons keep in mind that I'm sure this young lady is one of the best court reporters in all the history of Perry County and central Pennsylvania, but nonetheless, she can't take down 2 people talking at the same time. So please be courteous and allow your predecessor who is talking to finish before you have things to say. So having said that, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board, either with comments in favor of or against, or questions concerning the ordinance?
All right now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll still remember some of my notes.
Can you hear him? Can you hear him?
Not totally, unless he speaks.
Stanley, why don't you come up closer so that she can hear you?
Okay.
And
Right.
we-
Anybody else have anything to say as I finish my notes? Next mine's are they're questions. I mean, I guess that's what this is for, say so. Hi, my name is Stanley Mutzabal, M-U-T-Z-A-B-A-U-G-H. After going through this, one question is, it talks a lot about wireless communications. Does that also include like the TV antennas like walk on houses, scanner antennas, regular TV antennas? Does this ordinance include all those?
I guess, Stanley, I can take that answer to you. I don't know if Helen has any of these extras. At the Planning Commission meeting, let's get just for a little history of this. Perry County Planning Commission took a look at this. We got comments back, and I forwarded this information to our Planning Commission. And I gave them copies of it in advance, Stanley, to take a look at prior to the meeting so that they had a chance to look at it. One of the Planning Commission members came with some information tacked of the mini cell tower, and this is referring to something you get And he brought it in, and unbeknownst to us, unbeknownst to anybody, you turn around back and here's Daniel S. Cohen that prepared this very same article here on these towers. And this, at the planning commission meeting, everybody has one, there's some extra ones, I believe, floating around. Has everything that's in here about these towers and the mini towers and what's going on in the poles, and I guess it was all there. So your question, to answer you is, if I haven't answered it to you, yes, it covers, the intent is to cover all these.
Including dish TV?
No,
Okay, that's,
no, okay, well, you didn't say that. You're talking wireless ordinance facilities for wireless out there, don't have no effect that I know of them. I didn't see anything in there. Did you,
well,
Max?
no, but it's pretty broad when you read this, and it's talking about wireless communications. Anything wireless, anything that comes over the air, and it's picked up by an antenna, that's why I'm asking those questions. Like a scanner antenna, I have one on my roof of my
Yeah,
house.
no, I don't think it pertains to that. That wasn't
This
dealt
is
with,
strictly
was never
cell towers,
discussed. Cell towers, mini towers,
Please, one at a time for this young lady so that she can,
I know, she did pretty good.
and here was the coverage on all of that. I guess what, wireless ordinance is going to cover a lot of things that has wires to it. Because these towers don't sit out there without wires going to and from them still.
Right, I understand that.
And from 11-15 back to the one in my place, because we didn't have a wireless ordinance, we lost an awful lot of revenues. Putting that fiber optics in, supplied nobody's house, provided no additional telephone service, only wireless. So, then there's more of that to come. I followed this thing, you know, just in this area alone, for information, try to set your mind at ease. 9,700 cell towers were bought by Crown Castle from AT&T worth $4.85 billion, okay? And my tower's one of them. A lot of other AT&T towers around here are all purchased by them.
how many billion did you get for your tower?
I didn't yet.
Oh, okay.
And I won't. I got a lease that supersedes anything that's coming.
I think, not to interrupt, but I think what you're gonna find, there's a provision in the ordinance that non-commercial utilization of dishes and so forth is exempt from the ordinance.
Exempt from that.
Okay. That was one of the biggest
Yeah.
questions I had. You know, I mean, it seemed pretty broad when you read this.
There's an exemption in there for non-commercial.
Okay. Also, Henry, you talked about your tower, and I know you talked about in this ordinance you have to look at the towers that are already here and coexisting or something, co-locate towers wherever possible. I know you already have a tower, you just talked about your tower.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, in light of the possible financial gains due to co-location provisions in this draft ordinance, I was wondering if you should recuse yourself from voting on this ordinance tonight, or whenever you want to vote on it. Rich, after all that questions to you?
I'd have to explore with Henry what the status of the tower and what anticipation there is, whether or not his tower, the purchase by someone or sale by him matters, whether this ordinance is in place or not.
Correct, understand that. Plus also, you have to check on existing towers before you put any more towers up.
Right.
So, if Henry's gonna vote on this, he has a tower already. Say there's gonna be another tower in his area, they're gonna have to look at his tower first after this ordinance is passed.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure it's fair that Henry gets to vote on this, because he will have financial gain.
No, Stanley, you're wrong. You're wrong there. And I knew that, I expected that. No financial gain will come to me from any of this. I made that clear with the Cohen Group when I done it, and I expected to hear that tonight, exactly what I expected to hear.
Well, you know, what I'm
No
reading here,
financial gain will come to Henry Holman due to the wireless ordinance. The financial gain comes to the township, not me. I have a lease with AT&T for the ground only. I rent them a piece of ground, and that's been cast in stone a long time ago and will not change.
Okay, how about the coexisting on the towers that are already here then? Who gets that financial gain?
Township,
Township?
all comes back to the township. That's why I'm pushing so hard to bring this revenue back into the township, so we don't lose it. We've already lost a bundle by not having this. There'll be no financial gain from Henry Holman on this ordinance.
That was one of my questions. And then the guy wires, on page 11, so then, anybody that has towers, the fence has to be completely wrapped around the whole area then, if it's guide wires? If I'm reading this, am I right on that? Trees and shrubs and fences,
Yeah.
is that fact? I mean, from what I read, that's what I took it, like, let's just say the tower is 200 foot, and there's guide wires down. So then it has, not just where the guide wires come down in the building, but the whole area has to be fenced in?
Yes, I think that that's the way it would fall in, but the fencing is one thing that's required. The cosmetic part of it, the shrubbery and whatnot is flexible, it's built into our zoning ordinance, Stanley, so you understand that if it's up on top of the mountain, they don't need greenery put around it to hide it and et cetera. Cosmetic thing. Most of your towers, because of the reduced height of the day, are freestanding, they're not guide towers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't see many guy wire towers anymore, including the one that's a single pole down here at Roars. No guys, you know what I'm saying? So, yes, I think you'd take a look at that. That requirement would be probably for that. But this is mainly to get the attachments. It's coming in light poles, water towers, different items. That covers all of those items. And for the removal of them, and so that they don't become an obstruction to the community, that they're obnoxious, that they can't just put them any place and put them next to someone's development where there's a lot of houses. It's all built in there to try to protect them from that as well and still provide the services.
So the fencing then would just go around the building that houses the equipment and the tower itself?
That's correct. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, the way I'm reading section 7, the fence shall completely surround any tower-based wireless communications facilities, guy wires, or any building housing wireless communication facilities equipment, so that the fence would have to surround the guy wires.
Guy wire.
Got that? And then on the last page, on 24, police powers, what you got in section 12, number 1? I think that last page, then. I think it's the page before the signature page.
You're looking under police powers.
Yeah.
That just means that powers to enforce ordinances and other applicable laws are not eroded by or compromised by the granting of permits.
Say that again.
It's very simple. The township, by granting a permit or taking any other action pursuant to this ordinance, does not waive, reduce, lessen, or impair the lawful police powers vested in the township under applicable federal, state, local laws and regulations.
Alrighty.
If I could go back, Street. Question about non-commercial usage, there is an exemption for non-commercial usage exemption on page 22. Township citizens utilizing satellite dishes and antenna for the purpose of maintaining television, phone, and/or internet connections at their respective residences shall be exempt from the design regulations, et cetera, of the ordinance.
Where do you see that at now?
Page 22,
Mm-hmm.
it would be top of the page, item E.
Yeah, see, my 22 is different from your 22.
It would fall under section, was that 9?
Yes.
Section 9, 2, E.
9 to
How comes mine's different?
Seems to reasonably cover it.
Okay. That's what I have here, what I'm looking at is totally different than what Helen's is saying to me.
He had the previous one before the changes from the planning commission.
Okay. There was.
That's what I was working off of.
Yeah, okay, well, there's the current one, there was some additions that I mentioned that the planning commission asked to be inserted. They talked to the Cohen Group, they said, yes, we can put them in, it won't change anything from the original design of that. So they put a couple of additional items in that they'd like to see to accommodate the planning commission on their requests.
Okay.
That information from the planning commission, which took place last Monday, just got back here officially from the Cohen Group to be given into the township today. That's how quick that happened.
Okay.
Doesn't-
That sort of sucks though, because I read this, that's why I'm asking some questions off of this.
This,
That's why you're looking at me a little stupid. This just comes out today and we have a hearing tonight. I don't know, but anyhow, thank you. Helen, can I have it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
those were additions that were discussed at the planning commission, and at the planning commission was named publicly that they revert them back to see whether they could be included. Talked to the Cohen Group, Stanley, they said they didn't see that it would change any effect or have anything to do with it or whatnot, but they would be glad to incorporate those other items in there at the request of the planning commission. So those changes are the request of the planning commission to the group, and those numbers, Helen had them taken down at the minutes, at the meeting, and that was taken off and forwarded to them and asked them to include the planning commission's comments in it. So it was well known that the planning commission had those concerns at the planning commission that night. They could have said no, we'd have had your original ordinance there in front of us. Yes, but
June Fickle, F-I-C-K-E-R. So I couldn't hear his reply. What was it for the dish and DirecTV type satellites? They'll be permitted?
yeah,
I couldn't hear his response.
yeah. There's exclusion in there for the non-commercial.
Page 22, huh?
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have one question, if I may, Brian Peters, Township Supervisor. I didn't see anywhere in here that addressed, and it doesn't address any non-commercial use. What about your shortwave radios? I know there's federal ordinances and there's federal guidelines, but towers and communications for those, is that included in the non-commercial usage exemption?
I believe it is, but let me just double check. That is a good question, Brian.
22.
What section is that I just read?
Page 22E, 2E.
Satellite dishes, antennas for purpose of maintaining television, phones, internet connections at a respective residence shall be exempt. I think that covers the antenna that you're referring to. You're talking shortwave radio.
Yeah, shortwave,
If
yeah.
you wanna ham it up with me and I can ham with you, I think that, I don't think that is intended to be included in this ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Anything else?
questions? Any other questions? Going once, going twice? I would, you can make a motion to adjourn if you want to. I would suggest we get a copy of the transcript, and I would suggest we send that to the drafter of the ordinance, the Cohen Group, so that they have input into exactly making sure our understanding is what they intended. I think it will be worth our while. It's a very short transcript. We get it prepared, send it to them, and have them answer those questions so we're absolutely sure.
Okay. I don't know whether it's go ahead, Stanley.
If somebody's looking for a cell tower in right now, do these rules that are here today, do you have to abide by them, or, you know, somebody walked in here tomorrow with a cell tower plan? You go by.
Well, there's a little thing out there called the pending ordinance doctrine that says if you have an ordinance that is so far along and yet has not necessarily been adopted, that may apply to your plan if you're bringing your plan in during that process. So it's one of those doctrines that keeps lawyers in business because there's no clear-cut rule.
Steve told me to ask you, he figured that's what you were gonna say, but
Who said that?
Steve, my attorney.
Oh,
He told me to ask you that, he figured that's what you would say. Okay, he wasn't sure that, there's case law that says in some instances it applies, sometimes it doesn't apply. But I think we're far enough along, particularly with the advertising that's gonna happen. Anybody comes in is gonna be subject to it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm done, Henry.
Stanley, I'd like to make those of the record that AT&T controls that lease down there even though Crown Castle is now managing it. That AT&T lease that I leased to them is binding for another 7 years. So I'd like for the record, that there's no way that Henry Holman will gain anything monetarily out of this ordinance. It is not possible. My concern is that we get the ordinance adopted to bring the revenues in the township that other municipalities have, that the people rightfully deserve from coming through here and using our space, our public right-of-ways. And the right-of-way that they just used, they put a fiber optic directly in the ground. They put a huge plastic conduit from 1115 to that tower with nothing in it and tell me it's for future, but I haven't been able to find out what the future is. And it's coming quick if you read the capital connector and everything that's involved with this. If it's not in place, I'd hate to see the township lose that revenue. We already lost enough as it is. I, one more time, will not derive no monetary value out of this ordinance. Can't be done. Thank you. That being said, I make a motion we close the hearing.
I second the motion.
Okay, second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This hearing is closed.
You wanna direct this young lady to